You got the Indianapolis Colts going in the Houston Texans. Colts showed a little bit of promise there. I mentioned it there with the Jags game. They had like two really good drives and one decent drive there at the end of the game until they turned it over because they couldn't capitalize on fourth down. But if we can see more of that from the Colts, some good play calling. Anthony Richardson didn't have a bad game. He was better than expected. I think maybe that's what the Colts wanted out of him. I think people who aren't fans of him like us would mention that he had a better game than expected, especially against a tough Jaguars team.
I
I like
agree.
the Colts here just because I think I got to see more promise out of the Colts than I did out of the Texans. I didn't get much from the Texans versus the Ravens, and I got at least something out of the Colts against the Jaguars. So I like the Colts here. I like their play calling. I was a big fan of Shane Steichen going into the year. I was wondering what he would be able to do and pull off. I think it's going to be a little bit before he can hang his hat on one of the top coach spots, but he's working his way there, I think, and but obviously has ways to go.
For sure. Yeah.
Going Colts.
Going Colts. Yeah, I really I watched that Detroit game and I mean that Ravens game in Houston, and I mean they're just a better team. The Ravens is just a better team. Houston hung with them for a little while, and I would expect the same here. I mean, I think depth wise, I think the Houston's added a ridiculous amount of free agents a season ago, and I mean they made a good core for that squad, but I just think that Indy's still probably the third best team in that division, and I think it would lead Houston to be the last team in that division. I think Anderson should have a decent day here. That's a really good offensive line, but I think with his elite speed, potentially maybe he could get back there and cause a problem back there, cause some ruckus. But I think overall the Indianapolis Colts are going to end up edging this one out just because in the trenches on both sides of the ball, you got to respect them. And I think for that, because of how strong they are in the trenches, I'm taking Indy.
Yeah, Anthony Richardson, he put up some good numbers. Two touchdowns, one on the ground, one through the air. It was a nice bubble screen to Michael Pittman. He took it the distance, made a heck of a run after catch. And then on the Texans side, and they hung with the Jags very well. It was surprising to a degree to see that they hung that long with the Jags. But the Jags hadn't beaten them in Indy. I found out through a participant of the show on YouTube. They hadn't beaten them for like the last four times in Indy. So this is kind of a first for the Jags in a while. CJ Stroud, on the other hand, faced a really good Ravens defense. He was sacked 5 or 6 times, all different people, but no turnovers. He threw for 242, and he was 63% completion percentage. And he got zero help on the ground game. They shut Pierce down, and they really didn't feed him much after the first half. I think it's going to be a little bit different of a case for the Texans. I'm going Texans here because I like the fact that CJ Stroud doesn't have to have this masterful orchestrated game plan in order to come out and execute. You need everything to go right for Anthony Richardson to be successful at this point, I feel like personally. And that's a lot of gimmicks. It's a lot of motion, and it was effective. But now there's tape on it. I think D'Amico Ryans coming over from the 49ers. I think they're going to have a pretty good hand. Let's not forget the Texans held the Ravens to what? It was like 25 points at the end of the day out of an offense that we thought was going to be, supercharged up here. They sacked Lamar 4 times. Will Anderson got his first NFL sack. They are probably going to be missing their two starting safeties, which would be a concern under normal circumstances. But again, Richardson does not stretch the field at all against the Jags. Not that he's not capable of it. He's got a howitzer for an arm, but he did not do that. So I like the Texans. I like the defense, and I like the fact that C.J. Stroud can throw from the pocket. He was on time with his routes. I mean, he's working with Robert Woods and Nico Collins. Both of them had over 6 catches. Their offense was not bad. They needed that balance. They needed Pierce. I think Pierce gets going a little bit in this game and helps give them a little bit of balance, helps them score a little bit of points. I don't expect crazy points in this game. I think it's going to be a dogfight. It's two rookie quarterbacks. But I think at the end of the day, I got the Texans.
No doubt. Yeah, I was thinking about taking the Texans, but it's just that roster for Indy really just it's pretty good.
So fantasy wise, you would take Stroud over Richardson this week.
I think Stroud has 2 touchdowns. I think Richardson at least has one. I just think Richardson is more prone to turn the ball over, and I don't have as much fear with Stroud as I do with Richardson. I think Richardson, because of all the motion and all the game planning, that when it works, it's good, but it can really throw off timing if it comes in too quick. And the panic button for a rookie is pushed pretty quickly. And I watched Stroud under pressure constantly from the Ravens game, and he didn't flinch. He didn't flinch. He didn't turn the ball over. He went out there, he took his licks, and he came back and kept on trying to make plays the whole game. And that was impressive to me. I mean, I liked him coming in, but to see that to where you weren't putting up points, but still drive after drive, you didn't look rattled. And that's what I like from a quarterback. I want stability. I want a guy that forgets what happened last series and he comes back out. So yeah, I'd go CJ on this game
Okay.
over AR-15.
Same, Ed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm taking Indy, so I would, by default have to take Richardson. But yeah, I mean, I like C.J. Stroud better at throwing the ball for sure. If I had a choice, I'm taking C.J. Stroud over him in this particular instant. I just think that he's on Richardson's on the better team, in my
Gotcha.
personal opinion.
I hear you. All right.
How about
Let's
you,
go.
Brady?
For me, I'd go Anthony Richardson. I think there's more
There's
options
potential.
I think there's more options for him.
Sure.
I like his wide receivers a little bit better, just a little bit better, not much, just a little bit better. And I like the play calling is built to him.
For sure.